Welcome to my new boxing video. This is the Floyd Mayweather Oscar de la Hoya fight review. So Oscar de la Hoya and Floyd Mayweather fought in 2007, in May 2007, for the WBC light middleweight title. Floyd Mayweather had never fought at 154 pounds before, whereas Oscar de la Hoya was a full-fledged 154 pound fighter. Obviously, Mayweather was a full weight world champion at this current point. Obviously holding belts in super featherweight, lightweight, light welterweight and welterweight divisions. And obviously Oscar de la Hoya, even though he was a bit older than Mayweather, has still collected a vast majority of titles in different weight divisions. So obviously for this fight, obviously I was a bit young when this came around, but obviously over the course of the time I have watched this fight a number of times. And it was a good fight, a lot of build up. Obviously this was a real benchmark for pay-per-view buys, as in the fact that there's only been one more fight that's actually earned more pay-per-view buys currently, which is the Canelo Alvarez and the Floyd Mayweather fight, which was last year. Obviously two great fighters of the generation. Oscar de la Hoya, obviously the Mexican-American Olympic gold medalist, never really got respect from the Mexican fighters in some big fights. Probably, in my view, remembered as a fighter who was good, but in his major tests never rose to the occasion. Think Trinidad, Blood Hopkins, Shane Mosley twice, Manny Pacquiao. So obviously there's a few people. He has fought some and beaten some good fighters. Fernando Vargas was a good win for him. Obviously, so you can point to a few good wins De La Hoya had. Obviously Mayweather, the best pound for pound boxer, obviously at the current time as well. And he obviously, a lot of people's eyes as well, he had held that title for a long while, from his 2002 victory over 2001 victory to Corrales up until that current point. So there was the 24/7 series, which was brand new, HBO 24/7 documentary series, which is brand new. Shows you obviously the lives of a real in-depth insight of how Mayweather and De La Hoya live, how they train, and obviously get their views on their team, obviously, and obviously it shows you obviously real exposure to both of their lives. It was a good insight because it shows you what they're both like, obviously with their families, and also obviously what they're really like when there's only a few cameras on them, if that makes sense. So many people believed, and obviously now, because I've seen this fight a few times, that De La Hoya was kind of getting towards the end of his career. It's probably past his prime. He was getting on a bit. He's only had maybe. He had one fight in about space of 3 years properly. Lost to Bernard Hopkins in 2004 by knockout at middleweight. Then obviously went back down to light middleweight, beat Ricardo Mayorga for the WBC belt, and obviously now he's fighting Floyd Mayweather. So it's a huge test on De La Hoya's part because, he's a good fighter, but it's hard to really see how De La Hoya was really going to have a great chance in this fight if he's not fully active. Whereas obviously Mayweather's been fully active, obviously fighting regularly, obviously up until 2007. So when the fight eventually came around, it was a massive build up, and that obviously if I was my age now back then, I would have watched obviously all of it, all the 24/7, the weigh-ins, the interviews, anything I could get my hands on, because obviously it was going to be a great fight. So eventually the fight came about. And De La Hoya did have some success in the early rounds, getting him along the ropes, body shots, and he was obviously beating Mayweather to the punch in the early stages. But obviously, as you know, Mayweather does like to sometimes, or the majority of times, he does like to figure out the person obviously who is in front of him, trying to work out obviously what they're like, how their style is. Because obviously, it hasn't fought him before, but he does obviously know a lot about De La Hoya. So gradually, Mayweather found his groove, picking apart De La Hoya. Obviously a lot slower out of the two. De La Hoya did have some success at the beginning of the fight, but as he wore on, you could tell who was the fresher of the two, the more active. And even though De La Hoya is a great fighter and great boxer, Mayweather obviously is 10 times better obviously in class, just in the boxing ability. De La Hoya's got a good heart and he's tough, but Mayweather was obviously the much better boxer compared to the two. So as the fight wore on, it just went all in Mayweather's way, that obviously that I can obviously remember and clearly remember. So Mayweather did dominate him. Again obviously De La Hoya it was never a mismatch. Obviously, yeah, it was a good fight. It wasn't obviously like the massively build fight everyone was hoping for, in my view, but it was still an interesting fight. De La Hoya did obviously come back gradually in stages of the later rounds, but obviously, like I said, towards the middle of the rounds, towards the end of the fight, Mayweather did get a strong hold in the fight and eventually dominated De La Hoya, who did show signs of obviously showing his age in the fight, but then again, that happens to obviously the majority of fighters, even the best fighters. I mean, look at Muhammad Ali. Yeah, obviously he became ill, obviously, but he was great up to a specific point. Same happened with De La Hoya, and it happens with a majority of good fighters. I'm pretty sure, even though Mayweather's still undefeated now, Mayweather eventually will show his age. Yeah, I think personally he did show his age in the last fight against Marcus Maidana, but gradually obviously turned the tide and dominated Maidana. But obviously at the current time, he's not. But De La Hoya obviously has showed his age in the fight, so it's a shame. But then again, you can't always fight like you always did when you was younger. It just happens, obviously, in boxing. So there was a split decision victory for Mayweather. Obviously, people say it's controversial. De La Hoya could have won it. Mayweather could have won it. That's different people's opinion. In my view, that Mayweather won it. Obviously by a split decision. It was a close fight. Obviously, like I said, early rounds, De La Hoya did obviously get a foothold in the fight, and he probably won the first maybe 3 or 4 rounds. But gradually, like I said, Mayweather, the middle towards the end of the fight, Mayweather obviously put a foothold in the fight and gradually got the win. So after this, as many people know, Floyd Mayweather went back down to 147, which is the welterweight division, and fought Ricky Hatton, and got a 10th round knockout against the British fighter, retaining his WBC and Ring Magazine welterweight titles. And obviously after that fight, Mayweather retired. De La Hoya would go on to fight one more time against two more times against Steve Forbes, I think, in 2008. I don't even know much about that fight. I didn't even know De La Hoya had that fight until a few years back. I've seen a couple of clips of that fight as well. He got the win. Then he went against Manny Pacquiao in 2008 at welterweight limit. And in my opinion, obviously that was kind of a poor decision by De La Hoya. De La Hoya hadn't even fought in that weight for a long while. I think it was maybe 2000, I think it was end of 2000, maybe 2001, the last time De La Hoya fought about that weight. So obviously there's a massive risk, De La Hoya, obviously on his part, to go back down there. Against Manny Pacquiao was up and coming, a really sharp, quick fighter, as many people know, and obviously it wasn't worth the risk. De La Hoya got dominated by Manny Pacquiao, and obviously De La Hoya did retire, obviously after that fight. But obviously look at De La Hoya now. Obviously he's still in the boxing game, a great promoter, a great businessman. So even though it didn't really work out at the end of him, it didn't really work out for him at the end of his career, he's still in the game of boxing, a still respected higher name. So obviously, playing both of their parts for Mayweather and De La Hoya is still working out for him great. So this has been my Oscar De La Hoya Floyd Mayweather review. I'll see you in my next video.